All right, this is number 2 recorded Hangout presentation with Barry from Barry's Bench, Mike from DCC Reanimator, and Alex from DCCTrains. We're going to be discussing JMRI basics and DCC operations. My name is Dude Lindler. I'm the moderator for this tonight's show, and we will go ahead and keep running. You guys can ask some Q&As over there in the right-hand side corner. Anybody that comes on that is invited to the show, please keep your mic muted, and you can ask questions as we go. I really appreciate it. And here we go. Hand it over to Barry.
Well, good evening, folks. Another fun episode here with YouTube Model Builders. So tonight, our topic, like Dude said, is going to be DCC and JMRI. We'll give a quick, brief overview of what JMRI is. Show you how to go in and, pick an engine off your program track and set its address and a few other things. So, and then we'll start answering some questions. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share this document I have. Showing up. There we go. Okay, this is a JMRI information sheet from Dave Duchamp. It was presented at the NMRA National Convention in 2014. So the basics of what JMRI is, it's a open source software that works with all the different manufacturers' DCC systems. It also has capabilities of programming, train control. It has the ability to do signaling, block detection, and layout automation. And there's an entire module for just doing operations, so it can print out switch lists, etc. It also has the capability of managing your equipment roster as well. So there's 3 basic modules to it. The Decoder Pro, which is strictly focused on programming your decoder. Panel Pro, which lets you do layout control panels, TPC boards, etc. And Decoder Pro 3 is a more thorough user interface on Decoder Pro, where it has access to more of the other modules. And again, this is all open source software, so it costs you nothing other than your USB or serial interface, which serial is kind of going away, but some still have it, into your DCC system. So you can just go to jmri.org and go to the downloads, and that's where the software is located at. And then it will require you to install Java, but the new version is running a Java 1.8. Older versions will be run on Java 1.7. So there's an online manual available, which is usually a few versions behind. So it's something to keep in mind. There's also, when you go to download, there is a production version and the current test version. All the latest and greatest features will be in the test version, with the caveat that yes, there could be problems, with that version. I've never really ran into too many myself over the years. There's some clinics on there on the clinics page, so you can get like this document that came from there. So a good resource also is the email discussion group called JMRI Users on Yahoo. A lot of good information can be gleaned from there. It's a great little community, so that you can go on, join up to that group, and get post your questions, look for answers. Very, very useful information. What I'm going to do here is open up. I have Decoder Pro running, so I'll share that screen. There we are. So this is the interface when you first open up Decoder Pro 3. This is a interface that has the roster showing, but there's various other panels you can open up, etc. So this list here has the information of the ID that you create for the new locomotive, what you have its address set to. You can put a graphic icon in this field, and it lists what the decoder model is that it finds. You can type in road name, road number, manufacturer, all that kind of stuff you put in yourself. So right now I have a locomotive on my programming track with my SPROG that will eventually show you how to create a new locomotive. Some of the basic information you're going to need to understand here is if you go to Preferences, there it is. I'll share that one now so you can see that. The first one is a very important one, is your connections. So you could have multiple connections on here. So in this case, I have it set to my SPROG programmer. And then when you hit save, it'll restart JMRI with that connection. And you used to be able to go in here, and what it does, it creates an XML file with your connection name, and then you could tell it start up using this. Now they have a profiles feature. So when you go in, you create a new profile, you tell it where to store the information, tell it what kind of system you have, and give it a profile name, and you get one window where you can select all your different profiles. So I have a one for my LocoNet connection with the PR3. I have SPROG and my SPROG command station, same device, but two different profiles. Then I also have what's called a LocoNet simulator for when I do panel design. Then it'll run with my LocoNet on my Zephyr. So, does anybody have any questions so far?
We got one, Barry, and that's from Sean Hendricks.
I see.
You're looking pretty tonight.
That's Sean for you, man.
I have to agree. I think you're looking very pretty tonight, Barry.
I try, man.
Hey, Barry, I got a question.
Yes, Chris.
This JD.
Oh, JD, okay.
The Decoder Pro 3, and you know the Panel Pro. These are what interfaces to your individual. These are software interfaces to your individual DC system.
Well, no. What's the difference between them is the actual interface. Decoder Pro is strictly stripped down to just get to your programming functions. Decoder Pro 3, you can get in and have access to your throttles, turn on and off like Y throttle for running your trains from your phone, turn on the web server to use with panels and stuff like that. But Decoder Pro is strictly a stripped down interface that you can use to program your instance with. A Panel Pro has some basic features, but that's really geared towards creating layouts and control panels for use with like block detection, signaling. If you want to operate your turnouts from DCC, you can do it through a layout panel or control panel in there. So I have a sample I can bring up later and show everybody. So we may get to that tonight. We may not get to that till next week. So.
Okay. And Sound Pro, I assume, handles the sound side, right? The audio.
Yeah, that Sound Pro is actually for the virtual sound decoders, which really not much has been done with it. The idea behind that is that you would hook a speaker to your computer, you set up a VSD file which has all your engine parameters, and then you assign that the address of the locomotive you're running, so it would play the sounds. Amped up the throttle, would notch up the prime mover, but it's not very good. It doesn't really work very well, and I'm hoping that at some point they develop it so that you could put sound recordings in there and actually transmit them right to your, like, say your iPhone or your Android over the Y-throttle protocol, so that you would hear the sound of the locomotive coming out of your throttle in your hand.
So it's
That
not,
way,
it's not for putting sound files onto the engine.
no, it does not do anything of that sort.
Okay.
The ones that allow you to
I'm
do
surprised
that,
they didn't put it under. I'm surprised they didn't put it under one single interface where we have modules underneath.
well, there's been the thought of that, but some people only use it for programming the locomotive. So there's been talk of combining it together, but then it has so much stuff that the interface becomes difficult to navigate that way. Because, like I said, it's got it's got the ability to program engines. You can set up block detection. You can set up signaling. You can set up layout operations. You can set up automation. You can build control panels. I mean, it's got so much stuff that it would be kind of difficult for the average user to navigate their way through it. So that's why they, in the beginning, they broke it up into smaller modules, and as they added new functionality, they would add on pieces in a modular fashion.
I think.
Decoder Pro 3 has pretty much everything you would need other than panel operations. So if you want to run panels, you just run panel pro then. But Decoder Pro 3 has pretty much everything you want to do everything else with.
Okay. So during these 3 sessions, over the next 3 weeks,
Yeah,
you're going to be going through some of these things, Sound
Yeah.
Pro and so on.
Yeah, we're going to go through some of the different modules. I have like some sample panel files set up and stuff that I use for display and such. And then, like tonight, I want to at least show you how to go into Decoder Pro 3 and create a roster entry with a new locomotive. So,
Okay, thank you.
all right. So it looks like we have a question here from Sean about how to get my JMR program to run my train. So I'm assuming, Sean, that you want
just
to...
Barry, 1 second.
Sure.
He's saying, I have Digitrax BR3 Extra.
Yeah.
He has like a computer interface and I guess Zephyr Extra?
Yeah, the PR3 Extra is just the latest version of the PR3 computer interface. So he does have a Zephyr, I know that for a fact. He has the Zephyr Extra. So I'm assuming that and if I'm wrong, please post it in the Q&A, Sean, but you want to automate the trains, or you just want to operate them with like the throttle on the screen or your iPhone or something, which I can show you how to operate a train using the throttle. Bring up the window here. So when you're in Decoder Pro 3 here, you can go to the Actions tab and pick New Throttle. Okay. That opens up a throttle screen. So let me, I'll just share that one out. That does it in multiple screens. I have to switch back and forth. There's your throttle screen. So like right now I have my engine still the default address, so I'll put 3 for the address set. Then I'll turn on track power. And then speed her up, slow her down, forward reverse, and if you want an emergency stop, just stops it completely. That's like the E-stop. And idle will bring the engine to an idle speed. So. Okay. Turn off layout power. So you're saying you can't link up to the main layout. Okay, Sean. So you have your track feed coming off of your Zephyr to the layout, and your Zephyr has to be plugged into your PR3 via LocoNet cable, and the PR3 plugs into your computer via USB. Okay, Sean. All right, yeah, we might have to actually get together and try and get that to work then. It's going to be a little hard troubleshooting in here, but possibility that PR3 is not being properly recognized, that it's not transmitting information out to the layout. Because the PR3 essentially takes the input from the computer and sends it out over your LocoNet and out through the command station that way.
Hey Barry, just out of curiosity,
Yes.
I wonder if Sean has any power to the PR3. Because it has a jack, or you put power to it. If he's running it without power, that might be the issue.
You got a good point there, Mike. So, if you can post in here, do you have the like a PS14 or something plugged into your PR3, Sean? Mike's right. That can make the difference. If your USB bus isn't providing enough power to the PR3, it won't work correctly. Now, well, you've got that correct there, Sean, but we're asking, do you have a power supply plugged into the jack on the PR3 itself? Because if you don't, that could be the source of the problem. And it's designed for use with a regular Digitrax PS14 supply. Plug that in your wall socket and plug that into the power port on the back of the PR3 extra. So if you don't have that, that could be your issue. And you do have it plugged in, okay. And you can program. Now, when you're talking programming, is the program jack hooked to the PR3 or is it hooked to your Zephyr? Because you can put a program jack right off the PR3 if you want. The only other thing I could think would be, is it not recognizing the PR3 and JMRI, which there's been driver issues with that. So, I mean, we may have to actually get together on a Hangout and try and share your screen and take a look at some of the settings and stuff too. Well, let me open up my preferences window and take a peek.
I'd like to make a comment. Oh, but
sure, go right ahead, Alex.
I'm reading question, means comment, whatever he's trying to say, but I control my trains using my X-ray and JMRI. So the actually computer interface recognized by system and computer, so it's linked.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand.
Yeah, but I have problem with my trains from using my X. Okay, yeah, but then what's the problem?
It won't work with the on-screen throttle.
On-screen throttle. Oh, okay. Better know what's operating system version of the operating system. I'm assuming it's Windows 7. If it's XP, it was very well known problem with the older. Talking about like 3-4 years ago, and versions of JMRI. I thought from the beginning he's he just cannot recognize, the JMRI is not working at all. Means the Digitrax computer interface not recognize it, and not everything dramatically. Like,
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was a while ago. That thing changed now, and I try to put. Okay.
And here's one thing I want to say, Sean. If you can see this preferences screen I have shared, obviously you want to select your system manufacturer's Digitrax, your connection as a LocoNet PR3. But do you have this set to PR3 standalone programmer or one of the command stations? Because to use the throttle, have to have it set like to DCS 51 or the DCS 100 Chief. If it's set to standalone programmer here, it will not let you operate the throttle on the trains. Now my SPROG will if I'm in command station mode, but it won't with the Zephyr and the PR3. You have to have it set like that in order to run the throttle. But that won't let you program to the PR3. You'd have to set it the PR3 standalone programmer to program your train. So that's what you've been doing. Oh, you can't see it, Sean? You know what, dude? Select my screen so I'm up on the screen. Can you see it now, Sean? Oh, there we go, there we go, there we go. Can you see it now, Sean? It's this key right here. You drop down to command station type. That has to be set to a command station in order to use the on-screen throttle or the Y throttle as well. If it's set to PR3 standalone programmer, that won't work. That's what turns on the program track output on your PR3. So can't. Oh, you can now. Okay. Yeah. So if you had it set this way, Sean, it only lets you program. Did you have a Zephyr Extra or Zephyr? You have to select that. Then when you hit save and restart, it will let you run the actual throttle on the screen. Let's go back and share the Rosier Decoder Pro some more. See if anybody can actually see what I've got.
Hey, Barry.
Yes.
Barry, check the regular chat inside the box.
I just saw that, yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
You know, let me go. Actually, I'll mention exactly that Chris just noted. Yeah. What was that? All right. Right here also, John, if this is set, connection won't work properly, where it says disable connection. To make sure that's not checked. Correct. So let me show you how you can go about adding a locomotive in here. You can actually select identify, and it'll identify the locomotive on the track. But the better way to do it is you start out with a new loco, and there's two modes of actually programming, either direct bit mode or cage mode. Most everything requires you to use direct bit mode. Some of the older decoders used to use cage mode. So you just click right here, just go read type from decoder. It's moving my loco on the track now. And see now it shows, okay, it's a tsunami. You can see all the different ones that are selected. So I know my locomotive here is an SD70 Ace. So I select. And then what I'll do up here is put the name for the roster entry, the ID. So usually what I do is the road name and then the cab number. And then you can leave it at 3. I'll leave it that way for now. I'll show you how to change it inside the programming module. I'll So when I hit retype in the footer, it highlighted everything in because it's all text is tsunami. So I selected the SD78. And over here, I put in the PRR 1067, which is the third number. And something I want to note for you on here, see here where it says DC conversion enabled? That's what allows you to operate a DC or DCC. Most people tell you to turn that off and set it to NMRA digital only, unless you plan on running it on a DC layout. There's no reason for it to turn on. Sometimes what can happen is when you fire up your track, it'll see the momentary power spike as a DC signal, and the locomotive will take off across the track and you'll have no control of it. So that's usually, besides putting the ID here, but that's usually the first thing I do is turn that off. And you'll see these fields are now highlighted in yellow. So what I do is I hit write. That writes that out to the locomotive. And then I hit save, which will save this information into the Rosier screen. Now I can go click Open Comprehensive Programmer. Let me go and share that. So here's the full roster entry. So normally I would go in here, put the road names, PRR, what the road number is. It's an Athearn Genesis, it's a model SP78s, and then if you want to put any notes in here, you can. And then when you're done, write changes. Write all sheets or write changes on this sheet. But I usually will just save the roster again. Then we go to the basic tab. This is where you can set things like the short and long address, whether it's 28 or 128 speed steps. The rest of the stuff you don't need to change, so we're going to set this for long address. So, let's see. And I'm going to go write changes on sheet. Okay, now the locomotive is programmed with that address. Then there's various things you can do. I'll go through some of these tabs here. Like here you can alter the acceleration and braking rates. This is your back EMF cutout, which is the speed step above which your back EMF effect will be turned down. And if you hover over any of these, it'll give you a description of what they mean. But here, the braking rate. Well, the braking, yeah, see, there you go. The acceleration rate will be delayed. The higher number, it's a slower rate of delay. And the basic speed control here lets you set your start voltage. So it takes more voltage to start the locomotive. You can boost this up so it makes the locomotive start later. But it takes more voltage to actually get it up to speed step 1. And you might want to do that if this locomotive takes off faster than another locomotive, so you want to delay. Say, no, I don't want you to start moving at 3 volts, I want you to start moving at 4 volts. That way it's more in line with what the other locomotives can do. And speed tables are a way of adjusting how fast it accelerates, how fast it decelerates, and they're very useful for speed matching, which will be something we'll have to get into probably later in the next couple weeks. But default, don't use speed tables. And here, if you change this, you can pick one and then utilize it just like I can set that one. See, it's not changing yet. There you go. See, it's all a different curve. going to accelerate and get up to maximum speed up here versus the normal curve. So this will accelerate the other way. The log curve is going to accelerate a lot faster. But usually when you're speed matching, you want to flatten your curve, and then you set your what's called B min, B mid, B max voltages, and will control. You know, that way you can adjust them to tune in the locomotive. Then you can tweak each of these columns here. The function map here, this one's different for like every locomotive, you know, each decoder, I should say. This lets you set what function is on what function button. And depending upon the definition file that's used for this decoder, it'll have more or less function. Analog controls, these are only in effect if you have DC conversion enabled. And then that'll say, you know, whether your bell or your whistle or something won't work, headlights, etc. Consist address information here is how you can set up a consist address on a locomotive and then say, you know, how do your lights function, how do different function buttons work, whether it's the consist address, the locomotive address, etc. So there we know what we'll be covering all of that at a future time too. And some of these tabs are different on different ones. This one here is your advanced tab. Changes your braking rate. If you can lock your decoder so that you won't accidentally modify it, etc. How do your lights function? How do different functions work? And then here we have some of the settings for our sound. So in case prime mover starts up when you get a speed step 1, prime mover starts up, the track is powered on. So you can select your horns from here that are all programmed into this decoder. So very useful to have all this information. You should see some of them have a lot more than this. Like a wow sound has an ungodly amount of information for sound there. This lets you adjust your overall levels like master volume control, bell volume, and brake volume, etc. And this one here, you can read, write, program all the individual CVs one at a time. And then now we have, instead of having a regular lighting, Tsunami has a special lighting. So here you control all your lighting effects. And this engine set up the headlight effect selection is a dyno light. So you can tell is it incandescent, is it an LED, etc. There's a lot of operations changing here to match what's in your locomotive. Typically, the decoder definition files that all this comes from set up to match the particular locomotive and decoder combination you selected to create this entry. And this is your sound equalizer, just like the same kind of equalizer you would have in your stereo system. You can select various preset curves, you know, then write it and it will adjust the curves, or else flat, you know. And then here you can adjust your reverb and such on your horns, air compressor, engine exhaust. But each locomotive is slightly different. And these are your automatic sound controls, like turn on the automatic grade crossing horn. I want the automatic horn signal, so when I start, I blow 2 toots on the horn. When I go backwards, I blow 3 toots, etc. You can turn on your automatic bell sequencing, so when you start moving, the bell will ring into a preset point here, 10. When it turns on, it turns off at speed step 40. I usually like to turn that down to like, comes on like at speed step 1 or 2, turns off at about 15. So these are the analog versions when you're running on DC layout, whether or not they will actually work. So, and then when you're done, you know, after you've written, as you go along, you make a change, just click write changes on sheet. Usually don't ever do write all sheets because it can take forever and it's going to process all the stuff that you didn't change. As you change it, write the change. That way if something blows up too while you're doing this, your computer crashes, you won't lose all the settings you just adjusted. When you're done, go to File, hit Save. That way it updates the roster entry. Because the roster entry, when you open this up, will have all this information. If it's blank, you'd have to read it from the decoder. And that's why we have the roster. We make our settings right into the decoder, save into the roster, so now they stay matched. Now I'm going to write it. Does anybody got any questions so far?
We do have one in the Q&A. I don't know if you saw that, Barry. But does JMRI work with Macs?
Yes, it does. I use it on my MacBook Air. And I use my SPROG with it. I use my PR3 with it as well.
May I make a comment, please?
Go right ahead, Alex.
Okay.
I've kind of done the basic introduction, so we can open it up to people's questions, etc.
Yeah, just a small comment. I found I have about 6 months old MacBook Pro in like mini version, like not complete, with the 250 gig like solid state drive. It's fast. It's like extremely fast. What I did, I put Bootcamp and Windows 7 on it, and JMRI works better for me. I tested with under Windows.
Really? Okay. I don't
Yes.
use it that much. I mean, I have done it. It does work, but I primarily use it on Windows. But it will work on the Mac.
It will, correct. Another thing I want to make a comment on. Now I'm not hearing anything.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Another comment that I want to make. Let me put myself on camera. Maybe it's just more friendly. Using local buffer instead of programmer, DigiTrax programmer. If you using LocalNet. We've sold a lot of them, and usually guys using programmer when they operate actually layout for programming, just like using JMRI for programming, not running layout. But I think protocol works better with local buffer.
Well, I can't say I disagree with you. The only reason I bought a PR3 is because my intention was to be able to use DigiTrax sound decoders and load sounds on them. Other than that, you can use either one to run your layout program. You can even program locomotives using your JMRI through your regular program track, like on your Zephyr or your DCS 100. But the local buffer is your interface into LocoNet for your computer, so that works just as well as a PR3. Now, same with if you're using NCE, you have to use the NCE computer interface, and I'm sure you're familiar with one of the systems you sell, like ESU and stuff, right, Alex? They have all their own computer interfaces, right?
They have server built in most cases.
Oh, so you just plug them right into a USB into your computer?
Actually, no USB, just part of the network. You plug in Ethernet cable from the system to your router, done deal.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Yeah,
I don't know too much about some of the other ones, so.
Yeah, what stuff we are carrying a little bit beyond, I should say, but it's just. I think DigiTrax planning to do. And again, it's only a rumor, please. That's what I heard only, like a server interface. I think that's the next project. But let me show you. I don't want to change the subject. Let me show you real quick. If who is controlling me, the video.
Dude should be have you selected though.
Yeah, he's selected. Go ahead, Alex. You're selected.
Okay, I'm selected. Very good, thank you. See, this is Z21. I'm showing you all that stuff. Guys, don't get me wrong. I try to promote anything or whatever. We very well known. It's just a good opportunity. People see that stuff and probably never see it at the local hobby shop. You know, only online. This is real Z21 by Rocco. That's manufacturer. That's Austrian manufacturer. Okay, Rocco.
Oh, familiar with Rocco, yeah.
They number one, my personal opinion, number one manufacturer of the trains in the world, and that's the back, and that's the LAN interface right here.
Oh wow, check that out.
So I'm just connecting this to the router and wirelessly connecting to it with their own software, with Railroad & Co. Whatever this system listed under available software as a computer interface, you can run it.
I think they're supported with JMRI too, right?
I didn't dig to JMRI yet. I'm using JMRI with SPROG almost every day, every single day with SPROG 2 version 3, and for programming, for adjusting, for testing, running, showing how it can be done. Like under $100 today, the guy coming, I want a digital system. So we have a guy who's always with the SPROG in the case with computer.
Yeah, they work great. I mean, I bought mine years ago. I had it upgraded to version 3 firmware when it had a problem. And
Yeah.
I haven't found a locomotive I can't program with it, so.
Make sure you guys know there are boosters from SPROG, from US distributor, and much powerful version, almost 3 amps. The power supply about 3 amps, so system takes a little bit juice. You know, don't count like on 3 amps, but 2.5, almost like 100%. You can run decent HO layout actually.
Right. Okay. That's good to know.
So if you don't mind, dude, I will make a kind of that remarks, you know, so it won't be only like screen, you know. Just kidding.
Not a problem, man.
Okay, and what I'm doing right now, I'm setting up feedback, because again, everything way around the computer interface, feedback and all that stuff, automation, and I'm setting up feedback modules. Usually Rocco using their feedback module like this, but it's designed for read contacts, which is very good system. Works only in HO, unfortunately not in N, because you need like tiny magnet to keep around the locomotive. So it's a little bit complicated, but that my new vendor from Germany, Litvinsky, this is will provide and take the feedback from the track and providing power to it. So we'll see how it goes.
Like for occupancy detection?
That's correct. So these guys working together. And what I'm doing, I'm connecting them right now, listening to your guys' great presentation, and I'll probably make my own handout later. Okay.
Very good.
Let's keep rock and roll. Do we have questions? No.
Yeah, well, we have a couple that are in the group chat right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, if you want to open up the chat window and take a look at a couple questions in there. One's from JD, Yabba Dabba Zoo Flintstone, and another one from Andy Crawford, if you want to grab them, Mike. And unmute your microphone when you're ready. Mike.
I hear you, Barry. Yeah. It's just, you know, every time somebody goes through like these computer screen stuff, I'm used to being back in the class and just going to sleep. No offense, Barry.
That's all right, man. So
But you know,
JD has he wants to know more about the hardware options like the interface to the computer with well we've talked about PR3 and local buffer, but talk about some of the other brands like NCE, MRC, etc.
yeah, that's good, Barry. I think basically a lot of the interfaces are USB interfaces currently. What you're seeing is like what Alex was showing us too. Some more that you plug right into the LAN, and I think in the future we'll see more of those, and also more cell phones. I think for me the strength of JMRI is the ability to um, you know not only program the decoders like you said, because I mean there's definitely a need to program your computers, because if you're like me, you don't like writing stuff down. You just want to get the trains running as quick as possible and get them set up right. And if you really think about the inside of a train, it's really not a hospitable environment for electronics. I mean, you have a lot of feedback from the motor. You have some arcing going on. The contact's not always great, etc., etc. So it's not a really a safe environment for electronics. So every time you run your train, you run the risk of toasting a decoder. I mean, in all honesty, and having the JMRI back up your configuration, you can just drop in a new decoder and just copy that right into the new decoder without having to play with it. So that's a big benefit. But for me, the biggest benefit of JMRI is the ability to run multiple trains without having to, buy multiple throttles. I mean, if you look at the screen here, you see my two locomotives, and I can run them both with, two throttles from JMRI. It's really quite simple. Let me just get one going here.
Yeah, actually, man, the way I showed the on-screen throttle before, you can open up multiple ones.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Get another one going.
yeah, Mike's right. I've had, or I've used a plug-in throttle, a Zephyr throttle, my phone, and an on-screen throttle simultaneously to run 4 locomotives.
Yeah, and the other thing too is at the club situation when we go run our trains, um, you know, not everyone has a throttle. They forget to bring them. Whatever. We can turn on the Wi throttle server, and they can use their cell phones as throttles. I mean, it's really quite nice.
Yeah, now what JD's mentioned asked here about can JMRI run on the iPad or Android? No, it does not. But you can run the throttle component on your iPad or Android. On the iPad, it's known as Y throttle. There's a free single throttle version, and the dual throttle version is like $10. And then Engine Driver is the one for Android. It is basically the same thing. It talks over the Y throttle protocol on the JMRI computer side, but it's strictly just a throttle device so that you can run your trains. It does not, JMRI does not exist on an iPad or Android because it requires Java. It will, however, run on a Raspberry Pi. They actually have builds of it that way.
Yeah, actually, it runs on any Linux too. In fact, actually, the JMRI I'm running right now is on a little Linux box, a little netbook.
Yeah, like I've run it on my MacBook, which is Linux-based too. Now, to download the software, JD, you can go to the App Store for Apple or the Google Play to download Engine Driver for your tablet or Android phone. I think Engine Driver is free, right, Mike?
Yeah, it is actually, because I will not pay for apps. I just believe software should be free, but that's a personal opinion.
So, like Mike said, most of the people out there do have a USB interface of some kind. Even MRC's interface is USB, and yes, it is now supported through the Prodigy Advanced system with JMRI. So JMRI has a very extensive list of hardware that it supports. So that's another one of the great benefits of it, is that pretty much any hardware you can think of for trains, you know, be it signaling, operation, whatever, it probably will work with JMRI. People even have what's the RFID tag reader, so you can put an RFID tag on your rolling stock and track it from a reader, so you know what cars and what yard track, etc. There's a lot more that you can do with it over what we've discussed here so far. Now, there's a question from Andy Crawford. It says, can you trigger sound controls by occupancy detection? Mostly, can I turn the sound off, preferably with a fade out, as trains enter staging? Well, there's no DCC command to cause sound to fade out, but if you have that detector set up on, say, the third of the yard, so whenever a locomotive comes in there, you could have it say, when the detection goes positive, run a script in JMRI that will turn the sound off by, executing a function command. Problem is, you have to know what locomotive to do it to. So the only way to figure that out is by a transponding of some kind, like DigiTrax transponding, or a Railcom equipped locomotive and a Railcom detector, so it can actually know what locomotive to send the command to. So it's kind of impractical to do it, but you could do it. But DigiTrax transponding doesn't work very well, and not a lot of decoders support Railcom. TCS does, but there's not a lot of acceptance of Railcom yet. So it's a mixed bag. You could do it if you wanted to, but you could be in for a lot of headaches too. The best bet, you're driving the train staging, hit F8 as you're pulling into the track and use the locomotive. You know.
Yeah, Railcom's supposed to be a bi-directional protocol too, so basically the locomotive could do something proactive, like do a temperature of the decoder or something like that at some point if it gets developed out. But I mean, the holy grail of the whole detection is knowing what you're detecting. I mean, it's real easy to say, oh, something's drawing current. You get a little transformer, or you get a little light diode, or light resistor, and something's on the track. But the holy grail is what is on the track. Unless you have one piece of rolling stock, then it's pretty easy. But most of us, we like to run more than one thing at a time.
Well, that was the thing, guys. I just mentioned it, Mike, is that you could do it by a Railcom or a transponder. Also, people are using, like I said, the RFID tags.
Mm-hmm.
That's more complicated to set up, but if you can get it to do that, then that RFID tag is unique to that locomotive. And they've also been experimenting with barcode readers too, right?
Yeah, I think actually the most exciting thing and the cheapest thing would be the barcode. If you can get it to read the barcode, you just print those out with your printer. I mean, the cost, I mean, the RFID tags, you're talking about $1 a car or engine. And of course, with transponders, if you get the transponder for a car, or a decoder, that's extra expense. You're talking about $20 per unit. So, in my mind, the most exciting detection thing would be the barcode reader, but that only really works when the cars are moving. So if you're running a classification yard or something like that, it makes sense. But if it's stopped, your barcode reader ain't reading. So I mean, there's problems with everything, really.
Yeah, because it's not something that's mature enough yet now.
Mm-hmm.
Once they get the open LCB or NMRA net, standardize whatever they go with, then we can start building out this technology. And I think both of them support Railcom. So eventually Railcom will probably be coming too. What's that?
Yeah, I agree.
And I know that the future of this is in the bidirectional communication, and I think that that's probably going to be what's going to be required. I mean, RFID is something that I expect to do anyway because I want to automate the staging and some interchange traffic that's not interesting operationally. So I want to automate the crossing interchange traffic and the enter and exit of staging because that's just not fun. So I expect RFID to be a part of it and to trigger by location. And I even thought about setting a booster up on a dedicated section of track at the enter exit of staging and find out if there was a way to detect locomotive that way. But I'm committed to RFID for detection because I haven't seen any other alternative. And I was thinking about using that detection to script turning the master volume down in a series of steps. So, you know, it would turn it down, you know, 25% and then 50% and then 75 and then cut it off as it enters into a cut.
The issue with that would be your TV changing. There's no function that you can send as a DCC packet to lower your volume. You can mute it or not.
Right.
So you'd have to actually send, you know, a CV to set your master volume to 50%, 25%. So you'd have to write it on the fly using Palm. Then you run the risk of your script screwed up. You change the volume of every locomotive on your layout, or at least in that power district. So,
sure. Although, I of course, all this stuff's just creatively thinking outside the box to find out how this works. There's also, I mean, even just being able to cut it off is not bad because I'm going to use like a surround tracks or this whatever this other sound system I was on a Hangout talking about earlier that uses surround sound because I don't want to put a speaker in every single car for wheel squeal and stuff. So I'm thinking that maybe in the cut or tunnel as you enter staging, you put that sound. So as you cut the engine sound or cut the on-train sound, you use the surround sound to fade that sound out as an interstaging so that you get the effect. But the trick is, of course, now that you mentioned it, it seems fairly obvious, is the detection part. So I think, though, that you've answered the question in that if I do RFID detection, detect the locomotive, at the moment that I detect the locomotive, trigger the surround sound effect, turn off the locomotive sound, it fades off as it goes into the cut, and ultimately the effect. And actually the sound would be better because you could make the sound effect different from what just the locomotive is and have a slightly different sound effect, you know, the more muffled sound of a tunnel or a cut.
Yeah, but that's not a bad idea. And, you know, Andy, that would probably definitely work with what you're doing. Because like Mike said, you need to know what locomotive to do it to. So with the RFID, you can grab the locomotive's address. Just say the script says if I read RFID tag this, it's assigned to locomotive X. So therefore you can then execute instructions against locomotive X.
Yeah, now that that doesn't feel impossible actually. It felt a little impossible before, but I understand the components now.
Yeah, Andy, I do think you're onto something here with the surround sound and just using the surround sound and cutting off the locomotive sound at some point, simply because you know, you have such a little speaker in the locomotive, and you know, it sounds good when you're up close to it, but when you're far away, it gets distorted, that kind of thing. But when you have the surround system like you have, then you can control the sound that the users hear, but you also have a bigger speaker and it can go further. So I mean, I think it's a great idea. And the one thing I would throw out to Barry, to maybe he can have some thoughts on this as well. But with the WOW sound decoders, the sound decoders, they have presets, so you can set the volume to different levels, and based on the detection, you could probably go through and cycle through the different preset levels to gradually do what you said with to lower the sound.
I'm not sure about that, Mike. Getting access to the presets is not based on, well, I don't know if it's based on CVs. If you can set a CV, you could do that, but presets are based on the audio assist menu. So I mean, I guess if you could script hitting F8 4 times and navigating your way through the menu, but that script would be unique to that locomotive then. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. It's the same
Hey,
menu.
Barry. Finn has a question there in the Q&A too about RFID.
Oh, okay. I see. Oh, okay. RFID is already done. Seth Newman has it combined with J. Yes, it does work with JMRI. He's right. That's exactly what we want to see. Is that kind of development. I know it's been worked on for a while now. There's been come and go talking about it, but I'm pretty sure they had it all working. So that just confirms it there. So the thing is, you have to really, if you're going to do something, Andy, you have to probably get on the JMRI users group on Yahoo and post the questions. This is the RFID hardware and tags that I want to use. Is it supported? Go to the JMRI.org website and do some research to make sure that the hardware piece of it that you want to use has actually been configured for use with JMRI. So that all the protocols are in there. They all work slightly different. So.
Yeah, I think it's achievable. It's really interesting, some of the components we talked about. There's a couple things I hadn't thought about, but I mean, I think there's a path to this solution. And the surround sound is really intriguing that I haven't explored yet, but just in this conversation, it just popped up that would be an easy solution.
Yes, it would be actually, yeah. But doing what you need to actually have that at least identify it, not necessarily bi-directional and real time. But you got to know what's there so you can address it properly with the scripts. So.
Yeah.
Well,
the worst thing that can happen, you'll mute the wrong locomotive, and it'll make noise going into staging while something out in the layout just goes quiet on you. You don't want that. That blows the illusion.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
detection's key.
Surround sound across a whole large layout, but for that specific use of those few entry and exit points from staging, using surround sound there, like I'm going to do surround sound just for a small grade, so like squeal noise, brake noise on a small grade. That makes sense. Now committing to maybe some of the NSCO guys who have to commit to under layout speakers for an entire reasonably sized layout, that seems like a lot bigger commitment.
Sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's systems available, systems probably coming for that, from other companies. I mean, I don't know how well Soundtrack sells their system, but if there's enough business, I'm sure someone else will come up with something different.
I have a comment.
Sure.
I have a comment on Soundtrack system.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Also, when I'm talking, is that automatically putting me on the screen, or doing it? I still, there is no indication.
It'll switch over on the viewer side if Dude doesn't have one of us selected.
I see. Okay.
Then who's ever making noise will get switched to
okay. Well, here we go.
If Dude selects one of us, it'll stay there until we unselect it.
Gotcha.
Dude select somebody else.
Yep.
Very nice. Okay, guys. We are selling system, like just system generic, probably like 3-4 per week. Can be SPROG, can be DCCTrains, can be Lens. Less popular right now. Now it's we're waiting for Zemo, Z21. Unbelievable. In last 3 years, and we tried to make like deal. We sold only one that surround soundtrack system. One.
I kind of expected it. I've never heard. I put it this way. You know how old that thing is? Back in the 1980s, I went to the Valley Forge National Convention. That might have been 2000.
2000.
Yeah, it was announced there. It didn't come out to what, a year and a half ago? That was like 5 years or 6 years or more before the thing even hit the market.
Right.
And it's expensive.
It's more expensive.
Yeah, it's like $595 or $600. It's like, who would spend that kind of money? You know, it's a great concept. You know, so.
Also, I kind of find out more guys in really operational sessions, you know, for 4 or 5 hours, you know, I'm not hearing any sounds at all. They mute everything. They have locomotives with the sound, but everything muted.
Yeah, some people don't like the noise.
Yeah, I mean, unless in our area, every time I'm visiting layout, no, first they kind of warming up, having fun, you know, but when it's going to serious operation, silent.
I can understand that, you know.
So that surround thing never. No, I absolutely mean electronics. I am in the world of electronics and DCC and digital, but that surround sound system never just do anything with my mind.
Here's the other issue.
Well, I have a question for you too. Okay. Alex, you were talking about a layout that when you get there, they're like warming up, but then when they go to operation session, everything's muted, right?
That's correct.
Well, is that like a club atmosphere?
It's more. It's actually the layout in the guy basement, huge.
Well, the reason why I say that is because when I run my layout, if I have sound units, I have some sound units that are very temperamental when it comes to dirty track or whatever. And if I mute my sound systems and run them muted, they don't lose their, you know, it's like shutting it off or something. Because if I run the sound and the track is dirty, it'll do the restart starts in certain places because my track's dirty. But if I mute them, it won't do that.
That's probably part of the reason, but layout I'm talking about absolutely miraculously clean, and there is no issues, and equipment is very nice, multiple boosters, proper power distribution and everything. No, it's just the level, I think, it just, again, that's where I'm seeing the level of professionalism, I guess. Also, some people like soundtracks, some people don't, some people like ESU now. I brought Zemo sound decoder. Again, you probably guys never were heard people saying like, wow, we want that.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
So it's that's probably part of it, but
I'll tell you one big thing that was a major design flaw with the soundtrack system. It totally relies upon DigiTrax transponding. So even if you don't have a DigiTrax system, you now have to install DigiTrax transponding chips in every one of your pieces of rolling stock.
That's correct. You guys, do you have experience, any of you, with the Railcom? Railcom Plus, actually.
Mike, I don't know if you do. I don't.
Actually, with Railcom, no, I never really played with that. The transponding, I never really got into that yet. So I have to really just go and figure it out. You know, basically doing the research and everything else, not too many people are thrilled with the DigiTrax transponding. From what I can determine, it doesn't really work that well.
Yeah, you're right.
Old technology, that's correct.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole key to make a surround system work is you have to know what's where in order to turn the speakers on and off. And if that's not reliable, then you know you're paying $700 for a system that's barely better than, you know, couple cheap MP, you know, 3 players you can put around, you know.
That's right. And actually that gives you like even better sound. Or
there you go.
What I'm using, I'm just have multiple recordings of different stuff for white noise sort of on layout.
Right.
If you saw my videos on the pencil layout, there is a mill, and a couple of other things making noise. That's just plenty. And the locomotive equipped with the good sound decoder, especially with WOW right now, and I using ESU with that special capacitor. It's coming towards you, and you can hear it. It's going away, and it's going away. My personal opinion, none of the sound. I don't want to be what's in English? Skeptical about it, but it just, I think when bigger scale like S scale or even HO, you can, in a good steam locomotive, you can put like nice baffle and good speaker, you know, and have that engine running towards you, and you hear it, and it's going away, going back, different locomotives coming. I think it's more natural. Again, it's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the big thing there is how loud do you make it? I mean, a lot of people say, I have a 5-foot rule. If I can hear that thing 5 feet away, it's too loud.
That's true. It's again, that's maybe part of layout rules, not club layout, even private layout with like small club guys, friends. You know, they coming, they just shut the whole thing. You know, means the sound, and the guy's happy because maybe some people just don't like the sound. The guy running, actually working on railroad. You know, and what previous CSU decoders before they update. Newer sounds, they were really off. Right now they getting real sounds from real locomotives, but before, so the guy's saying like, come on guys, this is like just synthesize, you know, from 2-3 different samples, you know.
Yeah. Well, let's get back on to some more stuff on Decoder Pro here. So I'm going to go share my screen out again, and let's see this. I changed my microphone, Chris, so I hope you can hear me better now. So in here again, this is our roster screen. So your preferences, like I showed you before, is under here. Let me see what else we can do here. So in the Actions menu, this is where you can go into execute a program to start up a programming on a locomotive. You can actually change the labels and media on the on-screen throttle for an individual locomotive. As I showed you there, you can set up an on-screen throttle. And you can use this for doing turnout control, power control of your layout. Never touched the speedometer, so I'm not sure how that works with JMRI. Your single CV programmer here actually is just what it says. It's you go in, you select the CV you want, you set the value, and you rate it or write it. Now, we wanted to talk too also a little bit about, we said you can run it from your regular throttle, from your command station throttle. You can run it from the on-screen throttle here. But if you start your Y throttle server here, you see it says advertising Y throttle and it's pending. This is connected to my Wi-Fi network, so I have to wait for it to wake up. And then I can use this to turn layout power on and off, and I'll be able to connect to it with my phone or my tablet and control a locomotive. All right, there we go. Now you can hear my locomotive track coming. Now what I'm going to do is fire up Y throttle on my phone. Now you can do the same thing with engine driver on Android. So let's see. Now I can go track power's off, track power's on, right from my phone. And you guys can see, you won't see it, but I have my screen shared, so I'm going to stop sharing so you can see this. So I have the Y throttle off on my phone. So I'm going to go over to the address screen. On the bottom screen there, you'll see it has all my roster entries. So I can scroll down and find PRO 1067, highlight it, and then just hit set. And I see the button goes green. Now I'm connected to that locomotive. So if I go to the throttle screen, I have all my function buttons. I can scroll back and forth through the different function screens, that way. So let me show you there. So it's pretty much that simple. You install this application, you turn on the Y throttle server when it says it's advertising. You go right in here and it will automatically connect. Occasionally you might have a problem, but if you're on wireless or you're like what I do at shows, is I plug my router directly into my laptop with a cable. Then I just hook the phone to the wireless. My phone's already connected to wireless, so it uses what's called the Apple Bonjour device detection protocol, and it automatically found the Y throttle server and connected to it.
So where do you get the app for your phone?
Well, this is an app for the Apple iPhone, so you get this through the App Store. This is called Y Throttle, WI Throttle. But the light version, which is one throttle and doesn't support the web screens for control panels, the paid version is like $10. You can have up to 2 on-screen throttles, and you have access to the web server screen if you have it turned on, so you can see the control panels if you have them. So you go for Android, it's called Engine Driver. You get that through Google Play, which is their app store. So it's nice and easy. Then you got your forward reverse buttons, your idle button center, your throttle slider, and to go to the different function buttons, you just swipe the screen like that. So you can have access to all the 28 function buttons. And if you want to turn the headlight on and off, you just hit the flashlight and turns your headlight on and off. So, and then when you're done, you just go back to the address screen and then just do release. And now it's off. Then I can go to my settings screen and right there, turn off track power. So it's very easy to use. I mean, I know people are very DCC unfriendly. Mr. Luciano, our club president, I showed him this. He can handle that. It's nice and simple. Engine Driver is a little more complicated looking, but it's really no more complicated than that. So I really like using it myself. Now I like having the full version of Y Throttle because on my iPad I can actually see the 2 throttles at once. So I use it quite often when I'm running train shows with my display layout I have. I do all kinds of DCC stuff with it. So, and the other thing, if you have the paid version of Y Throttle, you can execute switch commands. So you can actually use it to throw your turnouts. So let me go back and share that screen again there. All right. So I'm going to go and close out the Y Throttle server now. So if you go into, let's see what else. The web server is like if you have Panel Pro loaded, you start that up, and that's how you can see your control panels from like a Y Throttle throttle, like the Apple, Y Throttle or the Engine Driver from Android. So. And then for my particular case, I'm running a SPROG, so I can actually send a DCC command through the SPROG to the track from here. I can, do firmware update. I can use the power control here to turn the track on and off.
Barry, Joe G has a question. Can you use JMRI solely run engines, or to need NCE, Digitrax, etc. as a base set?
You need a command station, Joe. One or the other. I'm doing this from my SPROG. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. That's my SPROG. That's a programmer as well as a amp-and-a-half command station. So, and like Alex mentioned, they are the same company makes a booster for this to give you additional 2.5 amps. You could just use this with JMRI as your command station. Then you could even realistically put any brand booster on your layout as far as providing power. So this here lets me run an entire small layout from it if I want to. But you have to use Y throttle throttles or engine driver or the on-screen throttle. There's no physical throttle you can plug into this. That is the one disadvantage of it. But it's a great programming tool, and then you can fire up a throttle on the screen with it and test right away. So.
Short comment. So this is SPROG 3.
Yep.
The size of everything the same. It just came with a bigger power supply. Or you can get, if you have already 3 years old, a SPROG 2, nothing's wrong with it. If you want to run bigger layout and you're running it, you just put the booster. Okay? But this is almost 3 again. Just they call it 3 amps version. Standalone programmer and testing system command station.
Yeah, mine's the SPROG 2, so it's only an amp-and-a-half, but like you said, I can put a booster on it, and I mean, that'd be probably really useful for running a small N-scale layout from your computer, you know. HO, I mean, you in theory could do it. You know.
Oh, believe me, we have guys. They are kind of hiding. they running more, and they're running HO, and they work on the motors. They put like cattle motors. I don't know. They want to say. I said, guys, come on, you're spending like $35 on the motor plus time plus this, but they just love to do it.
So now, let me get this right. Let's say you have the SPROG 2 or the SPROG 3. If you have a command station that you turn into a booster, you know, do the bypass so it's an actual booster. It's not the command station anymore. Can you run the whole layout on that SPROG?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. Booster means the thing output 3 amps right away, so it's standalone thing. Nothing you connect to it except you can put some different boosters, but there is no CDE or another booster extension thing. You can separate your layout and put another stuff like this, or you connect it to different system, like again Ecos, Zemo, Rocco, but that's standalone. That's it. It's not expendable.
Okay, so it's not.
If you put a booster in another area, how will you get the DCC commands to that booster then, Alex?
That was my next question, because we just got boosters literally like a week ago. Nobody asked for them. Right. That's my major question, and I will bring the answer to the next show 100%. Right now I'm just speculating, but there is there is only 4. If the other booster, you separate layout, of course, optically insulated, physically, just cut left and right and done. I'm assuming there is input from the output of the SPROG, you know, and it will work, but it just like transmit command through this. It's not expendable like like through command station, again CDE, NMRI compliant.
Right. Okay. So, yeah. So you said they have their own brand of boosters. Maybe you can find out by the next show if they work with that, and if so, how do you hook them up?
Yeah, I will absolutely. It's just my my next step to find out.
Alrighty. So, trying to think where we can proceed to next, because we're an hour and a half in. I wonder if we want to think about maybe maybe doing a little bit of panel pro, talk about some like layout control stuff. So
see if I can fire that puppy out. I can't do it from out in here. So, all right. So let me close JMRI then here, and I'll restart it. And it takes a minute or two, so. Panel Pro. A Panel Pro is meant for you to actually build and operate control panels. So what I'll do is Panel Pro 2. Let's leave it like that. Okay. That's a throttle and a half, Alex. All right, so give me a minute for this thing to
when you're restarting, Barry, I just want to show this is ECOS.
Sure, go ahead.
And the port, maybe not good lights, but let me switch different camera real quick. Just real quick, guys, bear with me. Face camera, save. Here we go. Okay. So that's the back of it. It's a lot of different stuff. They have their own. Unfortunately, you cannot connect DigiTrack straight like to Rocco Z21, but you can use Sniffer, and that's your computer interface, as you can see right here. Yes, means computer interface. This is the LAN. So server.
That's actually the Ethernet jack.
Yes. So server built in. You enable DHCP, and it's detected like that and ready to go. Mm-hmm.
Very interesting system, Alex. Alrighty, so let me screen share this real quickly here. So this is Panel Pro. This, like I said, this is a different set of modular commands that JMRI uses. You'll see here it says I have LocoNet using a LocoNet simulator. So essentially that makes the system think I'm plugged into like a DigiTrack's LocoNet environment. And here we have programmers where we can get into our programmers in this manner for doing like service or ops mode. Now service mode is off a program track. Ops mode is on the main line. So that's on your track outputs. And then here's some different tables and such that you would put information in for like turnout control, block detection sensor, signals, track routes through turnouts, occupancy blocks. I mean, there's so much stuff you can do with this. Then you have access to your throttles. Again, you can start Y throttle from here. So this is designed so once you've used all the tools in here to build a layout design, then you can actually come in here and operate it. So now I can even actually go and send a DCC packet from here. And the JMRI web server is what lets you connect to a control panel through a web browser and actually work it like a CTC control panel would be in a tower. So let's go in and we'll open a sample panel setup here. Which is the latest one. All right. Okay. Just gotta wait for it to open the panels up here. Here we go. All right. Just give me a moment to get these arranged on the screen here the way I like it. All right. Let me go back in here. I don't know if this will work or not. I'm going to share my desktop. Okay. Can you guys all see them? So, okay, so this is my actual, what they call your layout panel. And here you can actually have occupancy sensors so that you can actually track the movement of a train around your layout here. And if I click on the turnout, see it throws. That'll also send a signal out. You see now this is lit, that it's thrown there. I can come over to the control panel here, click a lever, and you'll see now this turnout's diverting. Same over here. It's all linked together through these tables, through my turnout table. So if you bring that one up, see if you can see that. So these are all the turnouts that are on this layout. So I can also change their condition from here. And typically what you would do is when you start up a panel like this, you have it set to run a little script that cycles the turnouts one time, so everything's in a known state. And there, like I said, here's all the other tables that you would use, like sensors for doing occupancy detection and such, which I have not used on here. I will eventually, because I'm in the beginning investigations of how to configure signaling. So that's something we'll briefly touch on probably in the third episode here. So yeah, this is what a central traffic control panel looks like. Probably what we'll want to do is maybe in the next episode we'll delve more into this, because it's rather involved building one of these panels. The graphics editor is not that great, and there's no other way to actually build them. So it's a little cumbersome to do, but once you got the hang of it, it works great. I mean, I have our entire club layout built, and it has 4 separate panels and 4 separate layout pieces. So, that way I don't have to have the entire layout on here, but I have a panel for the far end of the line, I have a panel at the intermediate siding at the picnic grove, I have a yard control panel, I have a panel at the station. And it also has 4 layouts, 4 separate control panels. And one thing you can do is if you have this set up like this, and you put a accessory decoder to control your turnout, like in this case I'm using the Digitrax DS64s, if they're plugged in to a LocoNet, they can set, or another network like say NCE, they can send feedback back to JMRI. So if you have a push button that's tied into that, you push it and it actually throws your turnout, it would send the signals back here and correspondingly change the conditions on the layout and the panel here. But this is pretty neat when you bring this up in like Engine Driver or on the Y throttle on your iPad. You can just touch the screen, and you touch your lamp, touch your lever, touch your layout. And this is usually the only one I show on when I'm using my handhelds. And then the last train show I did, I had this all set up on an 18-inch touchscreen tablet sitting on the table next to my train layout, and I would just take my finger up and hit the lever and watch the turnouts work, and people were just, wow, So it's a fun part of the hobby to do this, and there's a lot of things you can do with it. Like I said, you can have this show signals on here that are actually getting their aspect from signaling systems on your layout. So, like I said in the beginning, there's a lot to JMRI. It's a very powerful piece of software. And yes, did I mention? It's free.
Now
Go ahead.
On the Panel Pro, is there like a registry or something like that for all your cars and stuff like that, or is that no?
No, that's in a whole other section.
Oh, okay.
That would be through the operations module in Decoder Pro 3, which I really haven't got into learning about, because that makes this look simple.
Yeah, okay.
Because literally, you can go in and you build your roster of rolling stock, locomotives, you build a list of all your businesses, You build a list of sidings for each business, tracks in a yard, and you put the capacities and everything in there and say, Business X has a siding labeled this. It needs these kind of cars. The track can hold this many cars. And then you set up your roster. So is the car full? Is the car empty? And then you can tell it, I want to go here, here, and here, and build me a train. And it'll give you a list of all the cars and the locomotives. You can even have it generate you a switch list for when you take the train out on the road and go to the businesses. It'll say, Joe Blow's wood shop needs 5 boxcars full of lumber. And then the next train out, oh yeah, Joe's boxcars are empties. Take them back to the lumber mill to get more wood. So now you take empties back. So it's a huge, hairy deal to set up, but it's also, once it's running, it's the best thing in the world for doing operations, because you let the computer keep track of everything, and you just tell it generate switch lists and give them out to your engineers and conductors, and away they go. Let me see. I don't know if I can bring up Decoder Pro while this is running. See if I can show you that. Okay. So that's what I was telling you about. That screen there was the new profiles. That came out a few versions back. Before that, when you set up a configuration, you would save it and give it a name. Then you could put the name of that file at the end of part of your shortcut to launch it. Then it would launch it with those settings. So I had like 6 icons on my desktop to launch all of them to launch Decoder Pro with various setups, like with the SPROG, command station, with LocoNet, with LocoNet Simulator, etc. So I could do different things. Like I said, what you see here actually is there's a little window up here called, this is your LocoNet Simulator. This makes JMRI think I'm talking to a DCCTrains command station, when in fact I'm not. So I develop all my panels for LocoNet in here using this, and that way when I switch over to the regular DCCTrains LocoNet setup, it knows exactly what all this stuff is. So I can develop them completely offline. This thing does take its sweet old time loading. There we go. All right. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's not in here. Like I said, I don't know much about the operations part of it. So I'll find that out. We can probably talk about that in one of the next episodes or two. So I'll get a little bit more information together about doing operations with it. So all right, let me stop sharing that there. So anybody got any questions about what they've seen with Panel Pro? Aha, thank you, Chris. I didn't close that, so let's bring that back up. Ah, there it is. So here's, you can configure your railroad name, how your trains travel, what scale you're operating, how many cars is your maximum train length, how many locos do you need. You can actually give the cars weight, if I remember right. And you can say how much horsepower per ton does your locomotive have, or can it do. And then if you build a 100-ton train based on your car weight, it's going to say, well, if your locomotives only support 50 tons, you need 2 locomotives. So it's very intelligent like that. And you can actually use AAR standard codes to describe what type of car it is. Okay, let's close this. Take a look at the locations. So these are all part of a demo file. So these are all your different locations, like Bakersfield. It's a spur in the yard. Here's the length. How many feet are in use? It's got 52 pieces of rolling stock on it. So let's edit that. See, these are the rolling stock that can be serviced at that location because it's a yard. But if it was just like a lumber company, you might want flat timber, flat wood, boxcar, flat car. That's all you would need there. If it's an oil company, you would need like tank cars, etc., etc., or you want to make sure everything needs a diesel because it has to get there. So I can see there's a lot of information involved in setting this up, but when you do it, it's a great way to operate. So here's your car list. This is road number 12. It's the road name is VN. It's a boxcar 40 foot long. Right now it is currently empty, and it's in the Bakersfield yard. So it hasn't been set to go to a train, so that it doesn't have a destination on it. So and here's your locomotives. You know, road number, road model number, type is diesel or steam. And let's see what this is. So I don't know if this means length. I think that means length. So
Barry, are you supposed to be showing us this? Because I just see you.
Yeah,
Really?
I was just going to say that, Barry.
well,
Are
why
you sharing it? Because I
thought I was.
I
Okay, let me try that again. Let me go back and go through all that. Can you see it now?
yeah. Well, your desktop so far.
There we go. Okay. So here's the setup for your operations, like I said before. So we have our direction of travel for our trains, what scale we're using, you know, the maximum number of cars in your train, the maximum number of locos for any given train. And if your loco is 2,500 horsepower, you know, per ton, it's going to say how many cars can you pull. And then this is where you do your build reports, loading demo files, manage backups of your settings. So, and you can get into full operations from here. So let's go to our locations. And so here we have spurs and yards at Danville. We have just a spur at Farmington. So let's edit that. See, that only needs these cars. So that's how you define, you know, in a location what you need there to service them. So in this case, in Farmington, you have grain hoppers, you have box cars, you have flat cars, gondolas for scrap, bulkhead flat looks like for wood, gondola, flats for timber, you need diesel to tow your train, etc. So all this you configure, and then that will know what cars you need for a given business. You set all this one time, and then it keeps track of it as you complete an operating session and complete one of your switch lists. Then it knows all the cars are where they belong, and then next time you do a build, it knows, well, I can't use this car because it's at a spur, but I can say that's an empty. Therefore, if I need it someplace else, I can go and do a pickup when I send a loco out to do a set out for a full car for dropping off product, that I can tell it I want to bring back the empties for refilling and redistribution.
Do they do the little car kid?
No,
Cards?
well, it prints out. I've never tried to do it. Like I said, so let me close that. So here, see, here's your manifest. So you can say, here's all your information. Now it's going to look out your pickup locomotive, your setup, your pickup cars, set out cars, and then this prints out as a switch list and a route location. So it gives you a piece of paper when you're done. Said, take this locomotive, get these cars from these tracks in the yard, take them to these locations, and You know, drop off this car, pick up that car. It becomes a literal switch list of operations for you to do for that particular train. But you actually have to set this stuff up. Then you tell it, build me the train. And then it produces the build.
Okay.
And then gives you the switch list from there. So here's your build report options. You can use a text editor so it lets you preview what the build report is going to do, which is a good idea till you get used to it. Now Chris has got a screen share up there. Let me see if I can bring him up. So that's a what's that, a build report, Chris, or a manifest? Looks like a manifest. Yeah, it's a manifest. So that's what comes out of JMRI, one of the forms anyway. So.
Okay.
So
that's something you could put on a clipboard, and then that'd be like a yard duty for a yard, more or less.
Yes. Exactly. So let me pull my build report up here again. Now I know what causes that fading mirror screen to happen. Aha! You click on yourself and blah, 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 and let go. It goes back to it. Now I know what causes that stupid thing. So, I mean, you can see that there's as much work involved in this as in setting up a whole layout for signaling and everything. But rather than doing it all by hand, keeping track of stuff in spreadsheets and car cards and timetable or order type systems, you do it in here. And this is very similar to other softwares that are out there that will do this for you. You know, so there you go. Chris has got his paper on his clipboard ready to operate. So Chris, what's the difference between different color codes on the manifest there?
Can't hear you, Chris. Nope, still can't hear you. Nope.
It's yeah.
So did you finish that duty on that piece of paper?
Yep, he's still not working either.
Yeah. So those all got delivered to the right place.
There you go. Look at that. Very nice. His microphone was working earlier, so.
Yeah, it was. I don't know why it's not working now.
How about now?
There we go.
There you go.
Okay, so this is actually a partially completed switch list from my last operating session, which is nice because you can just set it down between sessions, but the blue are set out and the red are pickups at any given location. So this was one location. I don't know if we can get in close enough to read.
Channing, yeah.
Right. Let me. Are you guys seeing it mirrored? I can change that real quick.
No, you see it mirrored. We don't.
So let me just push that down a little bit. So there it says it's a manifest. You're going to have 404.
Uh-huh.
And then, so the blue are setouts. And then I put a little box there for them to check when they did it so they can keep track. Then it says there's no work at the ore dock, no work at Herman.
Gladstone, yeah.
Or Gladstone. So then when you get to the next one, I just double check. Yeah, I got that backwards. The blue are pickups and the red are setouts.
Oh, okay.
So when he gets to the next location, Escanaba, he's going to set out everything in the red, pick up everything in the blue. And this is all customizable. It's really nice.
I mean, how much work was to do all this, Chris?
It can be pretty involved. There's a definite learning curve, but once you get it set up, you know, I ran car cards and I just got sick of that. You get guys drop their cards and all the things fall out and they're setting them down all over your layout and you got hooks all over the place to hang them on, and you know, it's so much easier. I can print this. Yeah, I build the train, it prints it out in a matter of minutes. And if as long as the guys do what they're supposed to do on the switch list, and when they're done and hand it back to me, I hit terminate, and that tells the program that everything is done. I can automatically generate another switch list right in the middle of the session based on those cars being at their new locations.
Wow.
So, and you can, anytime you want, you can continue to, print the new switch list as long as that train was terminated. I'll bring up the whole key to it is building your trains and your locations, and then adding all your cars, which was the original question from Dude. But let's see if I got the right one shared here. Yeah. So this is the actual trains. If you can see on the left hand the little check marks, take those all off for now. But these are all my potential trains I could run in a session that I have. It has the route that it runs, where it departs, where it terminates, and there's another piece of the program that defines that route, which cities it could stop and work at, or if it'll just go through without stopping. So I'm just gonna back this thing up 1 second. Actually not, I'll just take one that hasn't been built and I won't save this all, but I can check mark that train 403, and if I say build, now it just built a switch list, and if I hit preview, I'm going to have to switch my share to that other one, I think. Hang on.
Yeah, because it pops up in another window. Yeah, that's what I would have us doing.
So now, no, that's
There
the
we
wrong,
go.
that's the wrong one. But anyways, it would be similar to that. It just that fast it generated that new switch list. I can hand it to the guy and off he goes. And in the case of a yard, you can use it to build and set up and break down trains in your yard with it, and then you print another one when the train's ready to depart. And as long as you put the trains where it says to on these sheet, and even then it adds a little fun. Is, hey, I can't find a car, then I have them write it right on there that, missing car.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually put a note on there on all your other switch lists for the other operators to keep an eye out for that missing car. But it's as simple or as hard as you want to make it. You can set some it's fairly simple to get some simple operations going, but it can get pretty technical to really start doing some tricky things.
Oh yeah, well, where it gets tricky is defining spurs and multiple spurs and yards. That's where I think a lot of the people I see have tricky problems with it.
Well, and the other part is your actual car movements. Let's say in a car card system, you go to an industry and you come back to the yard. That's as simple as it gets, and you do that repeat, wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
So it's a 2-cycle way bill. Go to the industry, come back to the yard. Go to the industry.
Yeah, and the thing is, there could be intermediate moves too, to like an intermediate.
And that's where it starts to get complicated. I do things like I have it depart 1 yard full, stop at an industry, or maybe you have to go through an interchange first before it gets to that industry. So it might take 2 trains to get it there. And then it's going to depart that other industry empty and maybe go to another yard back toward its home road. So if you start to do complicated things like that, then it gets tough. And the other tough part is balancing so that you don't end up with
all the cars.
Yeah, overloaded trains in the beginning and no cars 3 trains later. All of a sudden you're getting 2-car trains. So.
Yeah. I've heard stories like that where it gets all imbalanced. So.
Once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. It's just a fairly steep learning curve to get into the more advanced features.
Right. Well, thank you for that, Chris. That was great to know. That's the first time I really ever looked at operations. So I want to do a little more research on it. Yeah.
There's actually another little function in there called what's it called again? You can actually let me pull up my JMRI and look here. I'm just having senior moment here. Da, 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 da.
Does take its sweet old time starting up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It didn't used to. It's getting worse all the time, it seems like.
Yeah, I know. I haven't tried. I'm only at 3.95. I gotta get newer build.
I think I'm still on 3.8 actually. So
Yeah, I need to get the newer builds because it has much more comprehensive support for the wow sounds. So, and then Mike Mosher just developed the wow sound diesel definition. So I'm gonna need that.
So what I was looking for, there's another thing in there called dispatcher.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of neat because if you build a layout panel, which I think Barry showed you a sample of before, you can actually set up the same way you'd set up the trains with your routes in operation. You set up the train like goes from Green Bay to Milwaukee to Chicago. That's its route. Well, actually, as it transits that route, you can have your dispatcher clicking that it basically completed that segment of the route, and it'll actually update your layout panel, and it'll also update your operations if you use the same routes.
Wow.
The thing is, all these modules are really linked nicely in the fact that you can take in operations, you can select your locomotives from the ones you already have in Decoder Pro. In Dispatcher, you can pick your routes that are already set up in operations, and then on your layout panel, you can create markers for those locomotives. So to tie the 4 of them together, as the dispatcher moves the train in Dispatcher, it'll literally move the icon on your layout panel, and it'll also track it in operations because that part of the operations, like the clipboard I showed you that was partially complete, you can do the same thing in there. You can say, all right, it got to Channing, it got to Escanaba, but it hasn't gotten to Wasaki yet. So it knows those trains are basically somewhere, or those cars are somewhere between Escanaba and Wasaki.
Derailed somewhere?
Yeah, and if I shut down the program and open it up again later, that it knows that that's where they're at on the next operation.
That is the one thing good about the way this operation systems work, is because if you properly complete your switch list or terminate the jobs right every time, it always knows where everything is.
Right.
So it's not like you have to go back and restage your layout for the next operating session. You just pick up where you left off.
And you don't have to flip cards between sessions. All you do is fire up JMRI and print a new switch list when your screens have been completed.
But it's probably as much work as writing out all those dang car cards, especially if you got like 400 or 500 freight cards.
It is. That's the 2 advantages of car cards to me, is they're easier and quicker, and they're more repeatable. You won't necessarily have the balance problems if you set them up correctly in the first place.
True.
I'll show you if you want. It's up to you. I don't want to take up all your time, but if you want, I can show you a real quick sample of my panel.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
What's that, Tariq?
Can when you set your operations up in there, can you put that like in the apps instead of printing it out?
Yeah. Yes.
It does. It does.
Like
yes,
the one on Android, since it has more features, can you put that into that app?
You can by starting your server. You can and there's a couple things you have to do it. It's not very difficult. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head because it's been about a year since I've done it. But the reason I don't do it is because it's really slow in responding. You can actually bring up your layout panel or your operations on your mobile device, but I've found that it's very difficult. There's a big lag in the time you press something. Like if you look at the layout panel I have up right now, I'm going to click on one of these turnouts and it operates the turnout and you see the signal colors change. Okay, I can do that actually by hitting my finger the same place I'm clicking with the mouse, but it's very difficult to do. I haven't done it in about a year or two. Maybe they've improved it. And then there's a big lag besides. It might be 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and you might even have to refresh your screen before you see it. It does work, but it wasn't real good yet the last time I played with it.
It works better on an engine driver instead of Y throttle. Y throttle is a problem when you flip over to the web server screen and select a panel. It tends to, even though you have it set not to, it tends to lose control of your locomotive throttle, and half the time the locomotive will come to a slow stop.
So on this little panel, I've got it set up. This is like a magnet board, if you will. I was never connected to my layout because I never set up the block occupancy. But if I had a train that was sitting right here, you know, I hit that button and it lights up in yellow. I don't know how good that's showing, but
yeah, I see it. Yeah.
So the dispatcher can kind of follow along and know what's occupied, and you can throw switches ahead of time if you had it set up. But let's say if I'm going to clear that one once. Let's say he was heading to the ore dock, I could throw that switch for him, all the signals go appropriately, and then as I know he's progressing, I can pretend to be a block sensor myself and occupy that block, and you see it lights up another color.
Very nice.
You know, or if I was still going straight, you know, as I click these, all the signal lights change colors appropriately for... There again, it was a bit of work and practice, and you know, it's time consuming. Sometimes it's easy but time consuming. Sometimes it's difficult but quick, or any combination thereof. So each one of these could warrant an entire hangout for itself.
Oh, absolutely. You know, if I knew more about this, I'd be definitely willing to do something like that. So I don't have to be picking your brain, Chris, because I want to learn it anyway. So my immediate focus, I want to learn more about doing detection and signaling and stuff, because there's a few guys that keep, like Taki asked me about it and stuff. So I'd like to learn about it. Plus, I set up my little DCC demonstrations that shows. I want to build a permanent, roughly 4x8 layout, and I want to do that. I want to do block detection, signaling, operations. So operations will be the last part of it. So
yeah, it's kind of funny because the new layout I'm building is going to be almost the opposite. This one was no block detection, but heavily relied on the switch lists and the operations. But the new one I'm building, there won't be much switching, so it's all going to be about the signaling and the block detection for mainline running, and not much at all to do with the switch list.
Yeah, so this is going to be a lot involved, but I definitely want to learn it because my layout's small enough where I could put a basic signaling system in for not too much money and practice with it. That's what I'm doing on my American Flyer layout. I'm trying all kinds of different scenery techniques and stuff to see if I like it or not before I go do it on my HO layout and don't like it and have to tear it all out, you know.
And if you like goofing around on the computer and doing stuff like that, it almost becomes a hobby in itself, seeing what you can program in JMRI.
Oh, yeah.
Beauty of it is, like Barry showed earlier, is you set it to simulator, you don't even have to be hooked up to a layout, and it all functions just like you were.
Yep. The LocoNet simulator is a great tool. The only disadvantage there is, I don't know, there's an NCE simulator in there.
There is, yeah.
Is there? Because what it is when I showed you the turnout table, the turnout table actually has the name, there's the internal system name of your turnout, and that is specific to the type of system you're using, like LocoNet always starts with an L. So they're tied into the
NCE starts with an N, just like the...
Yeah, so you have to be aware of, like I do, like LT for turnout, you know, LocoNet turnout, and that way it can keep track of it, you know that it's for that type of resource. Well, gentlemen, it's 12:04. So, unless anybody has any other questions or comments, you know, I guess it's probably about time to wrap this one up for tonight, since we got 2 more sessions to go. So.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Barry. You did a great job.
Oh,
Is there any other is there any other questions from anybody that because we're going to have this is the first part. There's going to be 2 more parts of the JMRI thing, and so is there any questions for what they have discussed tonight? Well, then I think that's a
I have one
wrap.
quick one for Alex. Can you send me a free sample of that Roco command station?
Oh, good.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming in, and you know, not too bad for our second live Hangout presentation.
They're not quite as polished as the live show, but these are more free-form type discussions too.
Yep, they are.
Yeah, and I don't know a few of you guys here. The gentleman just talked about his Chris. Yes,
Right.
I'd like to meet you, sir. My probably channel very easy. DCCTrain, if you please subscribe to me. Just 2 comments, guys. I listened very carefully everything. Computer is very important. You may put on the side a little bit money and get like better notebook, because the bus on the notebook, and also you have like capability to add additional VGA or HDMI output to the monitor in the future. But laptops usually running faster. Just my 10 cents as I'm working IT as well, and that save a lot of frustration. I'm running sometimes JMRI on computer from 2010 with almost it's like one screen, right? One piece Sony made a while ago, and it's much faster than any desktop I see on guys' layout. It's just so frustration when everything crashing and starts rebooting back.
Well, a lot of people like to use old XP computers for their layout computers. That's part of the
Yeah, for programming it's okay. For running layout, it's not good idea. It just yes, it's
I'm with you.
You're not buying another like $300-400 thing, but it's just so nice and fast and a lot of fun. That's what I'm saying. Yes, saving money, maybe saving on something else, or just save money and get like better stuff. That's just always my advice.
Yeah, I'm always very cautious about advising people on what kind of computer to buy. Because first things out of my mouth is, what are your intentions? What do you want to do with this? And then I advise accordingly. Someone says, I want to play games. Okay, now you need this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You want to go on the internet and watch YouTube videos? Buy that $400 one, yeah.
I got one little thing to add that I just thought of that's might help some of you guys out. Any of you guys using like Dropbox for your saving your files? It's awesome because you can go to any computer that you put JMRI in and still access your files. I love doing that. Ever since I did that, it's been a dream come true.
I haven't tried to do that yet, but I do have a paid Dropbox account, so I'm looking to do that somewhere down the road.
I've been wanting to try it.
There's where you set your file location under your preferences. So if you're like in Decoder Pro 3, you go to Edit Preferences. There's a file location on the left. You click that, and that's where you put the path to the JMRI folder and stuff like that. So, I mean, that way it's very easy. You post it up to Dropbox, and it's great. You know, it would really be very handy if you're going back and forth. And the cool thing is, you don't need an internet connection if you go off, because it keeps a cached copy locally.
Exactly.
So you make your updates. Make sure if you're going out to a show, make sure whatever you're taking with you has been plugged into the internet and update it. Carry it with you. You can make all the changes you want. You plug it back into your computer network at home. Boom! It updates all the other computers. So.
Yep. Slick. Really slick.
Well, anyways, I want to thank Alex, Barry, and Mike for coming in. We're going to have them next week and the week after that. And
are you going to be here all 3 weeks, Alex?
if you guys, yes, I'm enjoying it. It's no problem at all
Yeah,
with
you're
me.
quite
Yeah.
welcome. So,
Thank you.
all right, good.
So
I'll,
anyway,
I'll bring next time, definitely. That's my goal. For next session, I will bring more information about booster, more JMRI, probably bring some samples also for you guys to
Yeah, and see if you can
Good.
find out about the SPROG and boosters if you can.
Right.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks everybody for coming and watching our broadcast for the night. And until next time, we'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same channel.
All right, just
All right.
if the